Ready to go?
All right, our closed session is closed. We're back in open session. There were no reportable actions taken during closed session. With that, we'll move on to number 7, election of officers. The board will discuss and elect officers for the fiscal year 2024, president, vice president, and secretary. And with that, I will open it up for discussion.
I nominate Jerry for president.
I would second that. No. Just add a commentary and ratio.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, guys. If anyone else really has a burning desire.
I'm happy with the status quo.
I was gonna say, I don't think they do it the way you
Oh, thanks.
Right.
Rich, any comment?
No, congratulations.
Okay, so if we do that, then currently, Sherry is our vice president. How do we feel about you? Sherry is our vice president? I think
She's done a good job.
you feel you're comfortable with it. Everyone
Sure.
happy with that.
You're so good, I don't have to do anything.
Rich, any comment?
No, I'm happy.
And Ken is currently our secretary. You feel like we want to continue
Sure.
with that role? Okay, then I think we need to have a vote then. Do I have a motion to elect myself as president, Sherry as vice president, and Ken as secretary?
I will make the motion.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Aye. Ken?
Hey,
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. And with that, then, Rich, I would like to appoint you to continue as treasurer if you'll accept that position.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to skip as we had a meeting earlier to 16. That would put back to those kind of items. Julie and Donna, I think we're gonna discuss this. Julie's not here to moment, but Donna, are you back on?
I am here. Is Judy there?
Hang on.
We can always skip some of the 17 and come back to 16 if you want.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, the audio is not very good.
Well, this microphone I don't think is working.
Good enough. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so since Judy's not in here, do we want to skip number 16 for the moment until she's back and move on to number 17, Donna?
We can do that if that works for you guys. Judy's definitely leading 16.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do number 17 then. New critical access hospital skilled nursing facility construction contract, exploring a change of direction, including estimated schedule.
Yes. So I want to bring to the board the information that we are for the new critical access hospital and skilled nursing facility, exploring to see if the project can be priced more efficiently, procured more efficiently with a different delivery method to that end. Intending to bid the drawings, and the schedule that was provides rough estimates for those timelines. We want to see if it makes sense to do this transition, and in doing so would encourage local participation, referring to the website for documentation that would be available to any interested parties.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, and just to be clear, we want to make sure our community knows we're exploring the option of transitioning to design bid build instead of design build. And we do encourage our local contractors to participate, because we anticipate more local contractors might be able to be involved with the design bid build option. So any other questions, comments on this piece? Okay, and I don't think we have any action required on this item at this point, right, Donna?
That is correct. No action.
Great, thank you. All right, then that brings us to number 17, new critical access, I'm sorry, that was just number 17. Number 18, new critical access hospital skilled nursing facility change order, discussion and possible action.
Right, so we do have Brooke Higman and Will Lichtig on as well from Bolt to answer any questions that the board may have. This is an amount that was for work done by Bolt and their subcontracts to work on the design through November 30th of 2023. And we are asking the board to, as indicated, for the action as indicated on the agenda.
Have any questions or comments on this item? Do I hear a motion?
Yeah. I'm gonna make this motion. Okay. I'm gonna give it I move approval of authorization with respect to the Seneca Healthcare District Replacement Critical Access Hospital, Skilled Nursing Facility and Outpatient Services Building Project to direct Chief Executive Officer or designee to enter into change order, amendment, or other legal instrument approved by the district, legal counsel, and the district Chief Executive Officer or designee, amending value for notice to proceed to the Bolt Company contractor to include additional cost identified through 11/30/23, and upon full execution of same and receipt of contractor application for associated payment, to issue payment for same value all in a form approved by district legal counsel and the district chief executive officer or designee.
I would just like to make a slight modification, if that's okay. Sure. From the beginning, consideration, approval of authorization rather than strict authorization.
But we've already considered it. That's why I'm making a motion.
Okay.
If you see what I'm saying.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Carrie?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you for.
Yeah, well done.
No, it's a mouthful.
All right, so this brings us to item number 19, new critical access hospital, skilled nursing facility, medical equipment. PO for Stryker equipment, due to price increase after 1/31/24, includes quote and supplemental financing option document. So Donna, I think we're still with you on this one.
Yes, so we have been notified from Stryker that for the equipment that is being planned for the new facility, there will be a price increase come January 31st. They estimate the price increase to be 3%, which equates to about $20,000. So we wanted to make sure that the board has the information for consideration. After this document was submitted to the board, we did get some further concessions, would we say, from Stryker, saying that they can modify terms on this such that you'll see on the last page here that the terms on this written document are 50% upfront, which given circumstances would lead to a non-recommendation from me. Like I knowing what the circumstances are, I think that saving $20,000 to by that spending the $300,000 to save $20,000 may not make sense. But obviously for the board's decision. And then, but they did come back after this document was submitted to the board and say that they could reduce the down payment to 10%. And so I do have alternate terms to that end. If the $20,000 did want to be saved from the price increase, it would require a that 10% down now. The terms would then be 70% at 16 weeks before shipment and 20% upon completion. So those are the modified terms if we were to cut purchase order now. The other document that was provided is another financing option where it would be leased to own. That too would technically avoid the price increase, but it would just be replaced by financing charges. So wanted to make sure the board knew of that option. And bottom line is we need to know if a purchase order is desired at this point in time for the full amount of the 677,000 with a 10% down payment or deposit rather, in order again to save that $20,000 price increase.
Judy said she's in now.
Okay. Judy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, it was very difficult to get into this meeting.
Thank you for, oh no, you're okay. We moved on and we'll go back to the early procurement in just a moment. Right now, we're
Okay.
actually on the number 19, the medical equipment, talking about the striker for the surgical. And the additional option that we have about potentially doing a 10% down payment now instead of the 50% down payment. And so if my math is right, that means we'd be putting down about 68 grand right now.
Right.
So I know we had talked about there being a potential for possibly renting a car period. I didn't know how that might impact this. If you don't mind kind of speaking to all of this. If you're still there.
Yeah, if that was directed to me, I wasn't
Sorry.
sure who that was
Sorry,
directed to.
Judy, yes, that was for you.
Yeah, so they said we could potentially, they were looking for a demo cart that we could use for 30 to 60 days. And so that would buy us a little bit of time. And I have not heard anything back on that, Brady, unless you have, separate from me. We're still waiting for a final answer on a demo cart.
Yes, they can get us, so this is in the OR, there's a surgical tower for all the laparoscopic equipment. And they can get us a loaner for 30 days, and companies do this where they'll bring in a loaner, you try it out. They can also extend that 30 days to 60 days. And there's a possibility that with the PO on the other side of something like that, it can get us 60 to 90 days out. Usually vendors because of all of this, they will work with you to get this at the end of it. So that was the striker tower was the first item. And then Judy, do you want to talk about the I don't know if that's in here. Do you want to talk about 16, because that's also a striker different vision, but
I also think that the equipment planning, this approach can apply to a lot of these things under the capital equipment planning is looking for a way to push us, for the next few months while we're in our dip, if you will, to get us past that.
Yeah, and not totally getting up to speed with everything in the construction project. Like striker, these are all striker pieces of equipment. If they're tied to the construction meeting, like striker lights, and sometimes companies won't give you the drawings for the light. So if there's certain things that are tied to actually architectural design or stuff like that, then those are things that you may have to do a little sooner. But, you know, and I don't know if any of these would hold up something else, but if they're freestanding things that we're just going to put in a storage until the new facility is up. And Judy, please jump in, because I'm, you know, not totally up to speed with everything. You definitely can have time, 30, 60, 90 days, to work on them to see what they can get us, because I don't know if these units like this OR bed, do we need the surgical table now, or is that something
No.
we can put in storage?
No, the only items that we're requesting right now are the ones that are listed in attachment 16. So the only thing early for the surgical services would be the cart with all of the endo equipment on there that was listed. And as far as architectural design, the only thing that was outstanding that is currently listed as an alt for surgical services for the new hospital is that we would prefer to have a 3 tower system in the OR, but 2 in the endo room. But currently the third tower or boom or what, however I'm supposed to be saying this, is on an alt list. We only have actual drawings, as far as I know, for two, correct, Donna?
That is correct. That's absolutely correct. And the quote for item 17 does include that extra amount. And it only adds, it's only like $700 from a equipment perspective. It is much more than that from a construction perspective, but right now the quote does include that third mount.
Yeah, so what we would need is to know from a construction aspect, what is that going to add to the budget? Because definitely if we are looking at an expansion, especially of our orthopedic services in the OR, that would be the most ideal setup that we would have over than just the 2 boom system.
So, since we were working through number 19 first before, I think in my brain, if we're jumping back and forth to 16, it's kind of getting a little muddy. So if you guys don't mind going back to 19, striker equipment. So I guess the question that we have today is whether we are in a position and desire to issue the purchase order, which will include a $68,000 down payment. Now, 16 weeks after shipment, what kind of time frame are we looking at for that, for the 70% needing to be next payment, Donna?
That would be well within construction, so we would be funded at that point. I don't have a definitive, but it would be definitely well within construction.
So past June, July,
Yeah.
past that point.
Definitely.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
And the 68,000 is at 10%.
Yes.
So can I add one thing? I mean, that's my first in, so if I'm wrong. But in 19, I would recommend to the board that we're aware of the 3% and aware of the timeline, but at current, and again, if I'm doing this wrong, please tell me. At current status, I would say we pause on 19 and bring this back 90 days from now. That will give me time to kind of go through with Judy and team to see what we can do with this company, because they are getting a lot of our business, and so that would be my recommendation. Brandon, this is my first one.
I believe that was the recommendation that we had made previously, but apparently that hasn't been done about extending the the drop dead date for the price increase. Is
They
that,
won't, they will
Well,
not,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, what I'm saying, Rich, is the company's gonna stick to their line because they're trying to get this. But there are other ways to get the 3% out of the cost if we have time to negotiate. So since we do not need this equipment today and we're gonna store it and Judy doesn't need it for operations today, I would recommend that we hold for 90 days. And that gives us time to work with this company to see if we can squeeze out the 3% by certain other ways. Because they do that to have this discussion. So that would be my recommendation.
Appreciate that.
First board
And,
meeting.
and one thing I thought interesting too is that we don't have estimated shipping for the endoscopy. And I mean, that's gotta be a pretty good chunk, I would imagine as well, right?
We do have it within the budget, just to be clear, but not in this quote.
Right, that's where I was looking for, it was in the
Hmm.
quote. Cause I'm assuming that's gonna be more than communication shipping. I would think.
I think so.
So, okay, so then it sounds to me that based on Brittany's recommendation and Judy, that we table number 19 for 90 days or sooner if you want to bring it back sooner. Is any other questions, comments around that?
well, what tabling, apparently the discount disappears at the end of this month. So don't we have to do something before the end of this month?
Our lack of action just means that they'll issue a different quote.
Well, we don't want that.
So
I
Rich,
mean-
I think what we are asking staff to do is go back and renegotiate a new purchase order that will also reflect that 3% somewhere within,
Yeah.
within the,
Okay. I understand that, but having done a number of these in my lifetime, I've always looked at that date as a drop dead date and tried to do my negotiation before the price change happens.
well,
When
it's
you
like
ask
that
for an
private
extension.
plan part quality, right? Because I mean, they issued this on January 18th, telling us we had till January 31st, Rich.
Right.
I think there was a reason for that, and I think it's because they want us to move on it and not try to renegotiate.
They had previously issued one similar. They had just updated it for the purposes of this meeting and this review.
And I think what
Thank you for the
Brady's trying to
clarification.
point out is ultimately, we're gonna be buying a lot of Stryker equipment. And that gives us a much stronger bargaining position than if we look at individual pieces of equipment. So I think taking the time to see if you can,
If,
negotiate.
yeah, if that's okay with Judy, because I'm late to the party on this one. Does that impact anything, Judy?
Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, does that, if we hold on 19, does that impact anything, any of your plans? I don't know all of it.
No, because again, the only things that we are seeking for early procurement, those things that we know cannot make it until 2026 are in attachment 16.
Do we know, Judy, if those pricings, I assume, are going up? Because it's one and the same, right? Like whatever's on 16 is also on this quote. So
Correct. So that had the February 1st deadline as well. And when we looked at the 3% of that 163,000, it came out
Right.
to just under $5,000 that we would incur if we weren't able to, go forward before January 31st. And it seemed like we were kind of willing to take that, $4,900 risk if we needed to. But then when we were talking to them, then suddenly, a demo cart was potentially available. So we thought that might help prolong that. So I'm a little bit unclear, Brady, whether that February 1st date changed in your mind, once they offered up the demo cart for 30, possibly 60 days, did that push out that deadline? I thought that's what they said, but I don't think we got that in writing.
And the 4,900, the addition, that can be absorbed in the negotiation as well. We can find a way to find that.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, all of that, because it's about the time value of money. So, right, if we give Stryker X, they're gonna put it in the bank, great. If we can hold on to that, and let Steve do his magic, then that builds that. And some of these guys I've trained over the years, so it makes it a different dynamic that I think we can help here. And then when we get to 16, there's some things that Judy wants to kind of go through in 16.
Okay. So if we want to table number 19, do we need to make a motion? Or just agree to table it? Rich, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, just curious, do we go through Premier or a group purchasing organization?
They indicated that this pricing is better than Premier. They were able to give deeper discounts.
And why? Why would they get better discount than a group purchasing? Can somebody tell me?
Yeah, usually, so Premier is the GPO, they abide by that. And this is Brady.
At a percentage.
At a percentage. And there is a caveat on some of those GPOs, the fourth tier or in that zone that you can locally negotiate. And so as the reps are hearing board actions of not doing it, that actually gives us more leverage with them saying, hey, the board didn't approve it. It's not a good enough deal, and we go back to it. So when they're starting to locally negotiate, that means that the commissions, that local salesperson is on the line and they want to close that. So that's, and for 20 years, I did local contracts with all of the hospitals. Now, when corporate Stryker gets in, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But if they're already off of Premier, that's actually a good sign. So the team did good work to this point.
Good, thank you.
All right, so I say then we go ahead and move our table number 19 and jump back up to number 16. Reviewing additional equipment requests for early procurement medical equipment. So Judy, we're back on the early procurement items now.
Okay, so had you already begun your discussion on this? Where should I pick up here?
The ER gurneys, stretchers.
Okay, so you didn't already begin your discussion on this. So
We skipped it waiting. We skipped it. So
Okay.
we could get you on this.
fantastic. So so on our initial equipment list, we had originally thought we were going to stick with Hill-Rom, but since that time, our current Hill-Rom gurneys have shown excessive signs of not holding up well. While Hill-Rom are relatively inexpensive compared to Stryker, they just don't hold up, even in a low volume ER such as ours. So we had looked at a couple other vendors, and then we looked at Stryker. When we got the quote back from Stryker, when we got it last month, it only reflected the highest end ER gurneys available. So those had power, they had all the bells and whistles, they had the capability of alerting call systems, etc. We didn't get a quote that showed us like good, better, and best. And I'd been trying to get a hold of Stryker to get more information. And finally, someone got a hold of me this week and told me that the person we had been dealing with previously was no longer with Stryker. And so she immediately gave us a quote for their good gurneys, their better gurneys, and their best and the best was the only one we had received previously. And I thought they had originally quoted 25,000 for 2 gurneys on that, but it was actually $30,000. So $15,000 each per gurney on those Cadillacs of the Strikers. So now what we have is a good, better, best. We are leaning towards the better model, which it does not require electricity. It's everything that we could ever need, plus a much better pad that will stand up. I believe it has a 3-year warranty. But what we have requested is that they send us actual physical demo models of these gurneys. And so she's trying to track them down. Those demo gurneys should buy us 60 to 90 days of actual use time, where we can make sure that we've got what we want, and it extends our time to final decision. So that's where we're at right now. If we did go with the better model versus the Cadillac model, it will still be an outlay of approximately $20,000 for 2 gurneys. That's with the much better mattress, and but still $10,000 cheaper than the Cadillac model. And so again, she's trying to track down those demos and ship them out to us. And but we're even though our current gurneys are not in a good state, because the hydraulics are not holding up. I feel like it's worth waiting for these demos to arrive to make sure, if we're going to outlay this much money, that we know exactly what we're getting into. And then we would continue the rest of the fleet going into the new hospital for the additional 4 gurneys for the emergency department, as well as the 3 gurneys needed for the PACU would be Stryker equipment as well.
So
That's where we're at on that.
So Judy, do you need anything from us today regarding the?
No. No, I think only if for some reason we decided that we needed to have a higher end gurney, which I do not foresee at all, in a very high volume ER. They do not need these Cadillac gurneys at all. Only for certain, maybe a trauma room. Then I would have to come back, because we would be over and above Sean's signing authority.
Okay.
So that's it for the gurneys. So we'll keep you posted on that, but there's no action needed on that. For the ultrasound system, again, I feel like the ultrasound tech did an excellent job of providing a justification for the reason of replacing this. So we're kind of at the point of either we provide ultrasound or we don't, because our current ultrasound machine is failing. And so we did look at the ROI. We did get a list of all of the different types of ultrasounds that we would be able to do as we built into our ultrasound program. Our ultrasound tech is from Plumas County. She lives in Plumas County. She would love to get more hours with us as we build into this program. And our next steps are to provide additional education to our providers to make sure that they understand everything that we can do on an outpatient basis, even though currently we're only able to provide that on Thursdays, but we could build into that. Sean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend to the board that we push this to the next meeting as we start taking a look at financials and things that are flowing. We still have to develop programmatic stuff. So med staff, the announcement as to what we can do, we were asked to bring back to med staff, and I'd like to get through med staff first, and then just basically readdress this in our next meeting if we could.
How far out would be the receipt of this equipment
It's
from when they approve it?
ready to get on a truck. It was on a truck. We turned it around, so it's really fast.
So My understanding though is our current equipment has some serious challenges. If we push this to our next meeting,
She's using it, it fails when it shouldn't fail, it can be a customer satisfaction problem. It's, yes, there are things that it is not the one we're gonna take forward in the future. But I do wanna be cognizant of the fact that by pushing this maybe a couple of months and if you will, I hate to say limping along, but limping along, it gives us the ability to start developing program, start leaning into our med staff, start talking about this, as well as pushing this purchase down the path just a little bit while we are assessing the outlay that's been going on. Cash flow.
Now, would we be doing more procedures, more than one day a week?
Well, to build the program, you know, talking to med staff, we're gonna be able to provide them all the exams that she does. They didn't even know. They don't know. So yeah, I do believe it's gonna yield ultimately higher procedural volume. I would like to get it where our ultrasound tech during her 3 days here is doing, you know, 10 to 12 exams per day. That's the goal. You know, that's a busy day in ultrasound. But right now she's doing 3 to 6. So I think it's both an awareness thing to medical staff, and then of course being able to provide the device to support the advancing program.
Well, and maybe that more docs, and this can be discussed at med staff perhaps, that more docs have the opportunity to be trained and know how to use the handheld ultrasound, like your.
Yeah, this would not
Yeah, this is
supplant that.
separate.
That's gonna happen
Yeah.
probably anyway.
It is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's become almost a stethoscope anymore. Point of care ultrasound, this would be for diagnostic purposes.
But we don't have, I mean, he has his own, we don't have a point of care ultrasound here currently, do
I have a
we?
meeting tomorrow, or no, it got pushed to Monday.
Okay.
But no, we do not yet have that here, but that's, you know, this is sort of chicken and egg thing. We buy the device now, probably not, you know, probably not the best fiscal decision at this point, right now, as we speak. But yeah, we're going to have to purchase this device. I just think that would give us some time to build the program a little bit and then purchase a device to support it.
So how much are the handheld units? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I do, but
I'm just curious.
they're about 12,000 for the unit, and then there's all kinds of integration to Cerner and things like that, so.
it's not for a butterfly.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
For
I can tell you how much.
It's not,
integration into Cerner and the cloud cost and things like that. Because I don't want to impact you.
Judy, can you,
doesn't that sound like high, Jerry?
yeah, that's quite, but I don't know how much the integration with Cerner would be. Judy, can you talk a little more about the ultrasound challenges that we're facing right now, that we're having, and kind of what pushing this off would do from a clinical standpoint?
Well, what Monica described to us, Sean and I had a meeting with her last week. She's a really great person and someone who I would love to see. If we're going to give additional hours to anyone, I would love for it to be her. She is so good. She really understands the service recovery aspect. And so she's actually been dealing with a lot of that on our behalf behind the scenes. So, but what she's been experiencing is the unit freezing up, sometimes having to restart the study over. Now, again, these are outpatient studies. Typically, you know, these are not like critical, you know, life or death situations. However, there's some serious conditions she's identifying. So she's been limping it along, and she can continue to limp it along. The diagnostic, the imaging quality is definitely behind by many years of what we're going to see with our new equipment. And she really wants to grow with Seneca and grow this program. She's wonderful to work with, but right now she is just doing that service recovery on the spot when she does run into issues that are either related to like the ball mechanism, or sometimes the whole machine just freezes up. They have to just reboot and sometimes start over again, and then collect the images. But she's not having any problem with image transfer or anything like that. It's truly related to the machine itself.
And
So-
I don't suppose there's an option to demo this.
We haven't asked. And that's the part of it is, can we ask for the demo? I mean, they got the gig, Canon's got the gig, so they tend to keep demo units used for their sales folks in there that we could potentially do this. And one similar to what we're doing with Stryker. I'm not against buying this. I mean, I think there's justification to build this program. I really do. I'm just thinking at this time where we are right now with the outlay of the financial outlay that we're going through as it relates to our build. I just want to be cognizant of capital investments right now.
So how much heartburn does it give you, Judy, to kick this again to February's meeting?
After having the face-to-face meeting with Monica, I don't have nearly as much heartburn about it because of her attitude and how she's been managing this. And also, I just feel like if she knows we're truly working toward building this program, she wants to be right at our side, building it with us. And so I think we've got time, as she knows she's going to be part of this whole program development.
Right, yeah, we are committed to building this. It's just a matter of timing. So if we can buy us a little more time, I think that's advisable at this stage.
And we haven't had a chance to meet with this vendor or talk to this vendor about a demo unit yet. But I think that anytime, any of this that we can kind of push a little bit right now is probably a very, very good thing to do.
Okay, well, why don't we leave these items on for our discussion for our next meeting, and then we'll get an
There-
update and see what if anything is necessary from us at that point.
Well, there is a piece here that.
But we still haven't gone through all of it, I understand.
Oh, yeah. So are we to go through these all? Because there may be some that don't have it pushed, we don't have any pushed on, like the lab.
The lab, we had one that we already approved the purchase order for,
Okay.
and the other one, it looks like, is on the auxiliary wish list.
Okay.
Yes, the lab analyzer, the Cellavision, is slated to go on to the auxiliary wish list when they reconvene this spring. And the urgency, we've got time on that. The lab analyzer, the microscan system, that purchase order has already been issued to Beckman. They are, well, when I wrote this report, they said they were about 2 months out. So we're more like 6 or 7 weeks out. And that's not necessarily for the analyzer itself. It's when they will be available to send a team to us to make sure everything is working and all of the training is complete on site. And so we're looking at sometime in March for that to arrive and our lab team to be trained and make sure that all of our interfaces are working properly. And then we've already talked about surgical services, the scope video system with Stryker, and hopefully we'll get an update on when that cart will be made available to us. And except that that 3% may be buried in there somewhere, but it is not a huge expense. So we can give you an update at the next meeting on where we're at on the surgical cart as well.
We have a piece to pull in here. This is just an added thing. We have a break fix in imaging. The digital plate for X-ray has broken. They have gone to CR, which is not acceptable as it relates to being able to get paid from CMS. There's certain, it degrades our ability to get paid for anything. So we have a break fix. I'd like to suggest to the board that we immediately move on a $26,000 replacement for the DR plate for radiology. Brady, you want to put anything forward on that? It literally broke a week ago and we've been limping in radiology. So if we're going to push off some of these, I would like to perhaps supplant by putting the immediate break fix approval for $26,000 and some change. I was looking for the quote to fix the imaging DR plate.
I think we would need to determine an emergency exists and add the item to the agenda, correct?
Yeah, unless it fits under one of these other things.
Well, equipment planning, medical equipment planning. Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up now. We didn't have a chance to get it on the agenda. Literally, we got the quote a day ago.
What is the amount?
It's 26,000 some change. I tried to pull it up on my phone, Rich, and I can't
No.
seem to pull up the attachment.
I don't understand why this needs board action. This was your
It's outside of
Just-
25K.
25.
It's just out of this.
So I think this would still fall under 16 because it's talking about additional information and request regarding early procurement
Right.
of medical equipment.
No.
And therefore I move approval for a DR plate
Yes.
replacement purchase in
For
the
yellow
amount
DR
of
plate.
26,000 and change.
Getting up to 27,000 just to make up for the change.
Right.
Okay. I have a first and I have a second. Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
So we're approving something that's not on the agenda? Is that what we're doing?
A medical equipment item. No, under
Not on
number
the agenda. The agenda is detailed. I abstain.
Okay, so this is an operational problem. It's outside of my purchase capability.
I know, I wish it wasn't.
I manage this. This is some, we need, it may not be on the agenda, but I need approval.
Because it's really replacement. It's not anything new.
Okay, well, let's just make this really clean. I move that this is something that was unknown, could not have been placed on the agenda in a timely manner, and therefore constitutes an emergency that we need to take action on today.
Do I have a second on that?
I second.
Thank you, Shelley. Sherry, approve?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rich?
Abstain.
I'll vote aye.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it.
And so now we need to
Wonderful.
repeat the motion to
Okay.
approve the item.
Yes, I'm
Very
very that.
important piece of equipment.
Yeah, I move the approval to purchase a DR plate replacement for our X-ray and in the amount of $27,000.
All in favor? Rich?
Abstain.
Shelley?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
So I think that finishes up item number 16, unless anyone has anything else in that.
It's a shame we didn't have a discussion about our financial situation before we discuss these items of purchases.
Yeah, we had to rearrange the order because Donna had to run, so I want to make sure we got through the pieces that she needed
This-
to leave for us, Rich.
Yeah, this board needs to know what our current situation is. And
Yeah.
maybe we'd act differently, maybe.
Well, we only approved $27,000.
I know.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I think that moves us on to 20. Donna, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. New Critical Access Hospital update January 2024 report.
Okay. I will be. Okay, so harvest plan, only item remaining on this is the monitoring of their watershed starting in March. We have Sierra Timber Services set to take that on at that point in time, and then we will once we get construction going and monitoring of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, or SWIP, in place, then we will be able to stop having Sierra Timber Services doing that monitoring, so that we're not double paying for site monitoring. So everyone's aware of that circumstance. Sierra Timber Services is aware of that circumstance, and then we're making it is the responsibility of the contractor to manage the SWIP. So we'll do that transition at that time. Everything else is complete on harvest plan minus final payment. So that is pending receipt of an invoice for that. Wildwood easement, we did get complete the review completed from Penn Fire. And they indicated some deferred items. We have sent them some responses to 4 out of the 6 deferred items, with 2 items remaining unresolvable until farther down the process. And so it's not anything that is time critical at this point. So they've been very helpful in getting us the document, in doing the review, accepting the plans, and getting us the document that we need for HCI's use and reference. And then we'll just keep tracking the remaining deferred items that they need resolution to fully approve the drawings. Financing, we continue to work through the letter of conditions for USDA. And for other funding, no update since the January 4th board meeting. Schedule, we are still we're still tracking for that shown in that second from the right column of June 2026, followed by 2 months staff and stock. So with that, there's no change for the schedule completion at this time. Similarly, no update from the budget items as reflected there on the summary from what was reported at the January 4th meeting. For design, as indicated, Penn Fire completed their review. We have approval on since the time of this report, we've gotten confirmation that we have approval on both site improvements and grading. We're still waiting for the only department that's outstanding for site improvements is environmental health. But we do have building approval. So what we will do is start to upload those those approved plans to the HCI portal, and so that they are aware of the approvals and able to give their overlaying approval for us to proceed with site. For the core and shell, we did have some hiccups. So we have 2 submittals for core and shell. One is for the critical access hospital and one is for the skilled nursing facility side. The critical access hospital has been, we resubmitted with responses to the initial comments from HCI, and currently that one is showing as a due date from HCI of March 4th. That is excessive for what their published timelines are, and in a meeting we had with HCI, they indicated that they would work to improve on that and get that corrected to be to the best of their abilities within the published timelines for that review. So we expect that 3-4 will improve in some way. For the skilled nursing side, we've got a hiccup in that we're getting a lot of structural holdback from the structural review of the structural design review. And so we have a meeting scheduled with HCI on February 1st to get that moving forward. We don't have a date back for that yet. We need to get it off center with via this meeting on February 2nd. And then we'll be able to get a date once they take that in more fully and not just keep it in triage, which is what they're doing right now. Then we'll get a date for when we're getting that skilled nursing facility side of the core and shell comments back. For the interiors, it's into HCI since the beginning of November, and we have a due date back from them on February 21st. they indicated in the meeting that we had with them today that that could push a little bit, but we conveyed the urgency with doing the best they can to meet that date, was the request to them. For medical equipment planning, you know, we talked about the striker PO in an earlier agenda item. Similarly, we are getting indication that the Philips monitoring is expected to have a price increase coming up here. And so I just want to give the board a heads up that could be another question similar to the striker question in this meeting coming down the pipe for the next one of the next couple meetings. So just a heads up at this point. And then for construction, as we discussed previously, we are preparing documents for a hard bid to GCs to determine if a change to the design bid build can result in the project being procured more efficiently.
Thank you, Donna. Any questions for Donna? Comments? Appreciate it, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see. Now, board, do we want to continue on with our housekeeping items, or do you want to hold those off and let Steve do his financial reports so he can finish up? Steve, do you want to go ahead? Number 14. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna let Steve do the financial report number 14. So, we take a 3-minute break. Shall we, anyone use the restroom? Like 3 minutes? 4 minutes? Thank you.
He thinks that
That's my
Yes. I mean, like I told Jerry, I'm having a hard time getting used to this strange.
It's weird,
That walks by mirrors and windows. I'm kind of like, oh, that's neat.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say because I'm not always politically correct, but you look young.
Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, I was.
I'm
She had black hair. I mean, she had those squiggly pigtails kind of up on.
Oh,
her head. They were dyed.
Brian, you might want to get it.
Sunflower yummy.
Oh,
And she had rings on.
All right, we're back from our restroom break. Go ahead, Steve. Thank you.
So you all have been provided financial statements for the months of October and November 23. The fourth and fifth months of our fiscal year. I'm gonna run through it pretty quick. Take any questions. I think we want to talk about our financial position a little more, but there are a couple items that we want to get for sure. So for October, we reported a net loss of $424,000 versus a budgeted loss of $321,000. We saw a decrease in our revenue, patient revenue to budget, and that continued into November, where we saw a significant decrease. Where in October, you can just stay there, Brian. I'm just going to talk through it. In October, our total patient revenue was down to budget $287,000. In November, our patient revenue was down $558,000 to budget. That was an ouch. So we looked at this, and our first thought was, what's December look like? And December was almost identical to November. So our third thought was, what does January look like? So I have looked at January. January is making a comeback, not to the negative swing that we saw going through November and December. So our next thought, or our next thing we wanted to confirm before or whatever to determine what action we would take or where we would go with this, is we said, is this a Cerner thing? Is this a system issue? Is something happened? So we were able to go drill in and dig in, and the statistics that I report to you guys in the packet are revenue driven. So they're going to support the financial information from a dollar perspective, more or less. We could say, well, here's the charge per financial statistic, and we can look at that and say it's high, low, it's whatever. But more significant is how many patients did we typically see? You know, inpatient is simple. We count the heads and beds idea. So we were able to go and get the encounters, what Cerner called an encounter, which is a registration. When a patient comes in, they get assigned an encounter number. And sure enough, across the board, our encounters went down. They went from 1,400 to 1,100 into November and December. So we bounce this around quite a bit, but I'm sure that you all appreciate the fact that, except for this morning, it's a little weird. Appreciate the fact that we're not covered in snow right now. And that I said to my wife this morning, I said, it looks like March out there instead of January. So it's just been mild. We haven't had any large viral outbreak of flu or influenza or things like that within Plumas County, COVID, nothing. So it makes sense, unfortunately. So those are our numbers.
Steve, can I stop you there for a second?
Please do.
These last one was horrific, so I'm wondering how these numbers are comparing to last year.
Brutally. And the problem is that we always use our historical experience or historical numbers to set our budget, unless there's some odd thing. And when we set the budget, we weren't, it wasn't pie in the sky budget. It was basically flat revenue, other than areas that we looked at. So we look at certain areas, we look at surgery, and it has nothing to do with the equipment, but we anticipated Dr. Jensen starting to do more business with us. He'd been talking about a second day a week, maybe 1 day of clinic, 1 day of procedures. We thought Dr. Watson would ramp up a little more. I mean, he's only here 1 day a week or 1 day a month. So, but, you know, that sometimes when he comes up here, he does clinic only, he doesn't do any procedures. So we had projected an increase in both of their volumes, and we haven't seen that. So we have a real negative variance in surgery based upon that we had projected increased utilization there, and we didn't experience it. Physical therapy is another place where we thought that we could see some increase in what Steve Brown does, and Cerner kind of took a bite out of him and his team, so at least for now. And so his variance is negative, and that is again one where we budgeted an increase in that area and we did not experience. So, you know, a great example is that of the reality of this is that in December we had 167 ER visits over an entire month. I mean, that's 5.5 a day. That's wow. That's not much. That's indicative of people just aren't sick. You know, we can look at provider availability and all that, and things like that, and that's fine. But that was just indicative of that our community just was not ill, or was not acutely ill.
But we did ramp up our walk-in clinic, didn't we?
Well,
We having a provider in there more often, or
That-
rounding?
that's the good news. That's the good news. So when we did the budget for, you know, talking about projection of utilization, when we did the budget for this fiscal year in the clinic, we projected Dr. Ware being part-time, that Dr. Wall's office would be full-time, but it would be a combination of Dr. Wall's working and then Heather Smith coming in. We projected Dr. Russo being full-time, and then we projected the walk-in clinic. We left an office open in our budget. So our statistics have been good in the clinic. They've been positive from a utilization. The revenue is down to budget, which that's a relationship that you know, demands an investigation or analysis, I guess. And so we have looked into it, and we need to do some work there. There are some issues with the way that Ryan, if you wanted to say, you know, if I say with the way the clinic build was done, and that's unfair, or that's not really a proper representative, speak up, but
Yeah.
but
So what I've discovered is that working with Sherry, we have
our revenue integrity
Yeah.
person.
our CDM bill with charges for specific orders. We have this, so there's 2 tables, and they're linked by a bill ID company, ID. So what we're finding is that our point of care test, urine tests, strep test, BPD, things like that, are mapped to the wrong bill ID, so they're not dropping a charge. So there are 2 charges in that column. One that the order is mapped to doesn't have a charge. There is a charge bill, it's just not mapped right. So the quickest resolution for us is, because it's in the CDM, is to add revenue detail to the existing charge that it's mapped to, instead of having Cerner try to remap to the other charge. So tomorrow I'm going through the whole CDM to make sure that there's not other things outside of the point of care charges for those.
No, this isn't something we can retroactively do, can we?
The bills that haven't gone out, we can reroute the charges.
But the ones that have gone out already, it's,
No. There's, I honestly don't believe the bills have gone up.
Yeah.
We have an incredible, when we look at the R1, we'll see that a big part of our issue is the discharge not on the bill. And a high percentage of that is in the clinic area.
so that may actually kind of sort of weirdly be a blessing in disguise in this
Oh,
instance.
I think it made us start digging.
Leaving money on the table.
If we build as is, yes, absolutely. Can't do that. So the positive thing is that as I was going through that budget analysis, that office was open, that office is filled now. So now we have one additional full-time provider that we should see appropriate volume utilization and in turn revenue, so. That's about the only positive takeaway from the finances we've experienced. I guess the sort of positive is that we've done some projections, or I've done some projections through the end of the year. And as we look at the cash position and all that, it's gonna be very tight, but we can weather this. And we certainly can weather it to the point that we bounce back and start growing the utilization through having this additional provider and start resolving some of these Cerner issues and some of these revenue cycle issues, so.
Question. So you asked a good question about historicals and how we come up with a budget. Do we look at 10 years, or I don't know what the normal is? Is it 5 years, 10 years of historicals to identify a budget?
Yeah, I don't know that we've gone back because there's I'd almost like to say that we almost zero base budget, but we don't. We take like what we have. So like we did the budget this year, we have this set of providers. And we know that there's this demand in the community based upon the number of providers we have and all the other factors. And then we say let's look at last year. What's different from last year? Where the difference is at? And then from that, we build a revenue budget. And so the expenses are the expenses and all that, but that is a zero-based budget that we just basically we have expenses that are so fixed that there's not a lot of flexibility in there. But when we look at, I mean, I don't know how low we can go on our inpatient and swing bed utilization. I mean, we start budgeting for zero kind of thing, I budgeted for like 0.5 and 0.75 and we're not hitting that. So, nursing home is back, they're at 15 residents, so that's good. But again, from the budgeting, we look at the environment that as far as the number of providers we have and the opportunity we have for revenue generation and compare it to prior years. I don't dig into it, like looking at whether or not we had oddball things like heavy influenza may have been. We're gonna have to just really be incredibly conservative. And then if we hit the jackpot on utilization, then that's good. But essentially also, Shelley, what we did for the budget for this current fiscal year is we did it to a bottom line of 0. So, which is unfortunate. That's not a sustainable model either. We have to produce positive cash flow. As we've seen. So.
All right. Well, and I think you're going to touch on it later on, but the new partnership contract was effective 1/1, right?
It is.
And that should help at least the skilled nursing side, maybe, kind of, sort of.
Yes and no.
Oh.
Yes and no. And the fact that there are now theoretically more people that are able to use Seneca as a primary care site.
Right.
It's a interesting thing is that what happens is that all of the people that were in California Health and Wellness and Anthem Blue Cross have been assigned a partnership as far as their plan. But it doesn't, they also, for primary care, they assign them to a provider, a hospital, facility, and it's not necessarily us.
Oh, even though we're the closest?
We still haven't seen our patient list.
We were incredibly fortunate though, because we found someone that demystified a big piece of it, and there was some belief that people couldn't even come here if they weren't assigned to us. And so we talked to partnership about it, and they said, no, they can come here and you just can't bill it as a rural health clinic, because if you bill it as a urgent care, or a different type of place of service. But what you do is when the patient comes here, they said that you're currently assigned somewhere, we say this, when you're currently assigned somewhere else, you can keep that. But if you need a referral to outside to a specialist, you're gonna have to go to who you're assigned to. And
Right.
they have to do the referral.
Because they're getting capped hours.
Yep, and if you want your referral to come from us, you have to fill out this paperwork and
Yeah.
ask for, I want to be reassigned to Lake Alamo Clinic.
You know, we're really trying to be proactive. We would like to get our patient list so
Yeah.
that we can do outreach, start doing baselines,
Yeah.
start doing some stuff that partnership wants us to do, which is
Right.
manage their care proactively.
How many patients do we think we're gonna get assigned to
Have you
us?
seen anything?
Well, our belief is that Lassen County 96137 zip code may have anywhere between 500 and 600 Medi-Cal lives.
Oh.
So
We need confirmation.
that's like doubles our
Yeah.
current, it's huge.
Wow.
So it's really
Okay,
a big thing for us.
yeah, that is.
And so far, you know, we've kind of bounced around the phone tree and partnership, but we found some points of contact that will give us a definitive answer. And if we get a contradictory answer from someone else within partnership, it may not even be us, it may be medical records or whomever it is, that will call them back or contact them back, and they'll run it up their chain and say, hey, this is the messaging that's going out to our new partners. And they'll get back with a confirmation. One perfect example of this is that we were told that everyone that was currently in the Medi-Cal, all the residents that were in the Medi-Cal program, whether it's California Health and Wellness, or whether it's Anthem Blue Cross, or reasons unknown, Health Net, things like that, that if they had a current TAR, we actually know the reason, but it's not good. They had a current treatment authorization request, or whatever the R stands for, that was in force, you know, was within a service period, that partnership would accept it. Just flat out, they just take it, just put it in the portal and away we go. Then we were hearing, no, you have to submit a TAR,
Yep.
which would be just the nightmare of nightmares with all the other things we're dealing with. So the call, they went back, they talked, they huddled up over there, and they got back to us and they said, no, just put it in work. Gigantic. That was a game changer. And while they were at it, they took all our messed up claims and fixed them and put them in for payment. So we're still dealing with a lot of issues, smoldering issues with our AR. We do believe that going forward, all of our partnership residents will have authorizations, and we know how to bill, or we've got it set up on how to bill, and we're off and running that, and that's monumental for us. But I guess that's a long-winded answer about partnership.
Well, are we gonna have members assigned to our providers, or is it just facility? Or both, professional and facility, right?
As far as what are you speaking?
For a partnership,
Okay,
because we should be getting a January file, a monthly file from partnership.
I don't
On
know
our
how they're gonna
members.
do that, but we were already contracted, the hospital was already contracted with, and the nursing home was already separately contracted with partnership. Anyone could come here. It's only for the clinic and the primary care. And yes, they have to, because it's a managed care product, they have to have a PCP or whatever,
Yeah,
the way they look at it, so.
so we should get cap, monthly
Oh,
cap,
no.
monthly cap money.
No.
We're fee
PMPM,
for
right?
service, we're fee for service.
Oh, okay.
They're
Okay,
capped. They get a
okay,
big chunk of money from
state.
state, and then they give it out to fee for service clients, so.
Can we go back to the emergency room for a second, emergency department, and you said the numbers were 5 or 6 per day, something like that?
167 in December.
It's normally 240, 260.
Yeah,
And-
certainly more than that.
What I'm writing down with that is like, how does that compare to last year? Because I'm thinking, well, last year, there was big snow and people couldn't get out of town to go someplace else. So are we seeing, because we have less snow and better roads this year, people may be going other places? I don't quite.
I don't know about that. The only thing I know is that we just haven't had any reported cases of viral spread or whatever.
Yeah.
The stuff that, respiratory problems, that's great because that RSV, whatever the heck it is bad news. So, we just haven't had occurrences of that within our primary and secondary service areas. So, us, the basin, now, yeah, Western Lassie County and Greenville. So, yeah, that's what it is.
Curiosity question.
Me too.
Lots of us.
Me
A
too.
lot of curiosity.
I mean, what drives it? So I don't know.
We have some, I see it online every now and then. Some of the chat stuff that was on, we have some negative Nellies out in the community who are not always saying kind words. I mean, I don't think they're grounded in anything.
And they're the same 3 people all the time.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. We've done outreach. I mean, but our community's actually going at them now. They're coming
I
back.
noticed that shift a little bit too. So.
Yeah, and I think what's gonna address that is the availability of providers now.
Yeah,
That's
which is-
huge. And they're here. They're ours. They're not,
More in the hopper.
they're sticking around.
Did we have to ramp up for partnership,
Ramp up.
ramp up providers
Well,
for the
we
partnership
we
contract?
needed to ramp up providers, period.
I know we did, but
But yeah, I would love to have seen the numbers if we expect to get an inflow. I would really like to have seen that we asked for that. Months and months and months.
yeah.
About, hey, what covered lives are we gonna be dealing with, what's the inflow gonna be, who's gonna establish here? Still haven't seen it, but 500 to 600, you said?
That's our estimate of the Medi-Cal population is.
Still haven't seen it though, because once again, once we know who's assigned to who, there's gonna be this big push in outreach, a lot of folks in
Yeah.
the baseline, get them in, start the heated stuff,
Right.
start the preventative stuff that.
Yeah.
That's not only visits, but it's also some diagnostics because baseline EKGs, baseline this, baseline that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is what partnership wants. They want to be able to see that. So yeah, it's a head scratcher. We're gonna fix what we can fix, but
Yeah.
you can't wear a sandwich sign out there and say, come see us. Well, pretty.
We could.
Yeah, it's weird.
Jerry,
Yes.
have you discussed with Steve our desire to have more frequent treasurers meeting?
I was gonna talk to them about that tomorrow.
Okay.
Either.
It's not in the board packet. It was a document that was prepared for the treasurer's group. Do we want to
You can discuss it.
just discuss it? Okay. So,
We'll bring it for our next meeting, so you guys can see it.
all right, so before I have to answer for myself, I'm gonna throw stones at someone.
Uh-oh.
So yesterday, person came in my office with a check from Plumas County and said, fabulous, we projected our first half property tax check, which would be between $350,000 and $400,000. So I opened up the envelope and it was $40,000, and it was the settlement from fiscal 22-23. So it appears now that the county is still running 3 to 4 months behind the distribution of property tax assessments to public entities. And, we don't need the money today, but at some point, I don't know what we do.
I know
I think the
that's-
board just had the treasurer tax collector into the board meeting expressing those problems from Feather River College, from here, from everybody that depends on that money to be dispersed. So,
I've always said, I don't know how public safety and education survives. They have to be doing advances, or the county just paying their bills for them or something. because they, you know, they don't have the revenue stream that we do, nor do they, or they have the cash reserves that we historically have had. So I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but that's, you know, that,
I think other than, like I said, keep pressure on the board of supervisors, to keep pressure on the tax collector's office, because they're the ones that have to make those disbursements.
I think we should put a.
I'll have a conversation with
in
Tom.
place.
Sherry, how do you keep pressure on?
I will have a conversation with Tom about it.
Yeah, first off, you have a supervisor that you should be climbing all over, because he should be bringing that to his board and really stressing the problem it's causing, not just for us, but for all the special districts. Can you imagine? And, yeah, countywide. And then secondly, go to board of supervisors meeting during public comment and stand up and say, hey, you know, we hope you guys are aware that we're about to shut our doors because you know, sent us our, you know, that type of.
better one than that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sean and I talked about it, and I was hoping that something had changed, and when I saw that envelope check come in, I said, great. So, and so there's just no thing. So I think we need to reach out to Tom Allen and just say, look, you know, we just got our settlement from last fiscal year, which is 3 to 4 months late. You know, I get having issues with staffing and problems, but I thought they brought in an accounting firm in to help them and paid them a bunch of money, and you know, you'd hope that would have.
They seem to still be having a lot of challenges around that area from the last few
Okay.
meetings that
They are.
I have my own issues to deal with, so.
But as I said, I think it's important to make the supervisors aware of it.
Yeah, I think
because
it is.
a lot of times, just like here, staff knows what's going on, but the supervisors may not be aware of how critical this has become. And
Thanks.
most of them really care about their special district.
And costly.
Yeah, I expect you to give him a call probably tomorrow anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll talk to him about it. See what happens from there.
That would be helpful. So I guess I'm gonna wander off of the specific October, November financial report. It was all about the revenue. This is that, and again, I think that we, for the time, with the exception of some of the issues we've identified in the clinic, and then maybe some of the things that will come out through our revenue cycle activities, I think we understand that it really is reflective of our utilization. So good news that January's ticking up. It's just not ticking up as much as it went down, but with another full-time provider there, we'll see what happens. So do you want to close out the financials, or do you just want me to make some comments about the financial position, and then we can?
I think that
Okay.
first, yeah.
So at the treasurer's meeting, what Rich and Jerry asked of us, of the staff, is to put together a cash flow projection, including days cash on hand. Because in my report here, the big thing, in addition to the revenue, is the days cash on hand going down, the AR growing, and all that. That at the end of November, we were down to 78.3 days cash on hand. Check that one. Anyways. It's because we had previously been reporting the board net designated separately, which is a $1.5 million. So it's approximately almost 30 days cash on hand, a little bit under that. So now, Rich and Jerry said, put together just the total days cash on hand, all cash available. I did this as we go into the spring here. We have a very big event. The big event is that we make our intergovernmental transfer for rate range, QIP, and HQAF. Good news is that all of the information is set in stone. The amount that the IGT that we'll be making and the supplemental payment that we'll be receiving, we'll be putting out about 1.7 million, and we're gonna be getting back, over $5 million. So that's the normal course of business for us.
Is that March
Um,
or April?
the rate range and QIP IGT will go out in February. That's the big chunk, the $1.5 million. We're scheduled to receive the money back in May of $4.5 million. There's push to get that, to work with the managed care plans to put the money back to everybody faster. No guarantees there. And then we do an IGT in March for HQAP, that we should get the money back. That one, I think the prevailing thought is that we'll get that by June. And there's not a lot of wiggle on that one, but rate range and QIP, there could be some flexibility on there because those come directly from the managed care plans. So that's gonna put a big hit to our cash. And it brings our cash down to a level that we haven't seen. I haven't seen since I've been here. So. But as we get the funds back, the supplemental payments back from the IGT, and as we start to bring down our AR growth from the Cerner conversion, Cerner and the long-term care conversion, we bring our AR back in line with where it should be. The big issue here is during this time we're doing the project, and by the way that the USDA, I guess, forced our hand, if you will, by having us fund everything, our entire contribution prior to our interim financing for construction. We've had to extend about 140 days cash. $8 million is about 140 days cash for us. So everyone says, boy, I remember when we had 200 days cash on hand. I can tell you where 140 of it went. So, but that's what we used for the future of, you know, I don't want to be flamboyantly dramatic here, but the future of healthcare in this part of the county. And if we hadn't had those funds, we never would have done it. We never would have been able to do it. We could not have. I mean, I don't know if the HUD 242 program is still around, you know, where you could do something, you could do a project with very, you know, no down payment, but 10% was kind of the number that we were going to have to come up with one way or
That
another.
was our down payment, yeah.
And so that was just something we had to do, something we were able to do. And then of course, the Cerner conversion, which we'll talk about in the R1, has brought, I think there's about, maybe 30 days cash on hand that's sitting in there from the AR that's grown. So we've converted all of our AR like historical times with the old evidence system, then this $1.7 million is above that, the normal conversion rate. So we're below the normal conversion rate, excuse me. And so it's just hit us hard. I guess the only thing I could say about this whole thing is that it's not a matter of where this is just some slow bleed where we're losing money and we're just, you know, we're just going down with no, all of the utilization, the burn, if you will, of our days cash on hand is going towards things that support both our current situation, the IGT, and our long-term situation, the future bill. So it doesn't make it any easier to look at possibly 30 days cash on hand at one point. But after we get the supplemental payment, convert to AR, and we're going to get back to about 80 days cash on hand. And that's the target that USDA has set for us in the legal conditions. And then from there on, that's where Shelley was referring to when we do a budget where we have to produce cash. So what we want to start doing going into fiscal 24-25 is start producing a positive cash flow year. it might dip again because until we hit that supplemental payment, you know, it doesn't, like Grady said to me, he says, you get a payment every month? I said, geez, I wish. That would be so nice.
Yeah, but what about R1? I know we contracted with R1 to help us with our AR.
Do we want to jump on that? Because that's
and I-
kind of a,
Yeah, let me just ask for a motion, or unless Rich has anything to add on the financial reports.
No,
Okay, I'll accept a motion to accept the October and November 2023 financial reports.
so moved.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have a second? Thank you, Shelley. All in favor, Sherry?
I,
Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Right.
Shelley?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, thank you. Go ahead and go on to R1.
okay. So. Taking way too much time, but Brian, can you, I'm gonna leave this document with you, and I've given it to Deborah as well, so it's in the word. Just give it to you for your own use. So, couple things. So we finally,
What page are you on?
so we, this is not in your, unless, this is not in your, this is the, so we finally got R1 to kind of listen to us and say, hey, you know what? Great work on the implementation, on the go live. But what we need now is we need you guys to manage our AR, manage our denials, and tell us what's going on. And because it's growing and growing and growing, and it's not stopping. And yes, we're kind of saying anecdotally this, anecdotally that, but we're not really done. We're not getting there. So here's kind of the thing where the AR is at. So AR follow-up, they say that there's, you know, these items. I don't want you to get too, once you get the document, I don't want you to get too caught up in the number, but they are actually going to go, the R1 is going to have a focused effort for the stuff that we build that hasn't denied, that's sitting out there, what's going on with it. So they're going to go work it hard. Long-term care is a big issue. We're starting to get some traction on that finally, especially with partnership. The next piece is this client assistance. So this is where they've had something happen with the claim and they've put it back into our work queue and we need to do something with it, but quite frankly, we're not quite sure what that is. And so we need them to partner with us to help us understand that on what we need to do. The last piece of it is discharge not final billed. And this is the big booger for us. And what we've done to address this is we entered into the coding support contract, and it's taken a while, but I'm reassured because the way that they were so thorough on doing the quality control setup of it and working with us to make sure that they understood how we do things before they started, you know, going off on our claims. So we are now submitting claims to them. So we think that with them, R1, working on this AR follow-up, we're gonna get two things. One, we're gonna get money, and two, we're gonna get answers. Same thing on the client assistance. As we start hammering on this and they start working more directly with us and telling us what's going on, then we can identify what needs to happen to clear these client assistance. The discharge not final bill is gonna be two parts. One is gonna be just them to start sending out this coding and then them to give us feedback on what's happening, client assistance, and then also to free up our own internal people to work on stuff that involves our process to where we need to get providers, whomever it is, to do things differently. And one of the big pieces, go to the next thing. And again, don't get hung up on numbers again. We're struggling with them on the locums issue. We are going to change. We're going to credential the locums providers we have in the emergency department that we're going to utilize any kind of basis. Instead of just reflecting them as temporary placements. Kind of a Medicare thing where it's a little, it's just a little cleaner. This is the best way to say it. Heather Smith, our new PA, we're having some lag in getting Medicare, our new providers credentialed with Medicare. So she's got a bunch of AR sitting out there because there's not a sign. She just was recently, we got that through, so she'll go out. We're working on the new Lori Kohler. We're gonna try and enhance our onboarding, so in a perfect world, everyone will be credentialed, the providers will be credentialed with payers when they hit the ground here. Registration, it is what it is. It's a combination of user error, Cerner error. And then the last piece here is solution. This is our Cerner issues. And again, don't try and make the numbers add up or whatever, but it just identifies that finally we're saying, hey, these are the issues that we need to deal with. And to that end, R1 has identified, they've hired, they have a person who is a build expert, a Cerner build expert. Ryan and I are gonna work on getting all of the outstanding service requests, build requests to Cerner to them so that this individual can review it. R1's made a commitment to bring this individual on site for 1 week to work with us to solve these build issues. This is probably the biggest area where we fell down in this process, is that after we went live, we knew that we had build issues. And Cerner knew we had, Cerner and S&P, our contractor knew we had build issues, and they said, quote unquote, we'll just fix it in the go live environment. And that's what we've been doing. Problem is that the R1 team that we had in the implementation, who was so instrumental in getting the amount of build we did get done and identifying issues, transitioned away to an operations team. And, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We have this type of individual that we're going to get now that would have been on that go live team. Things would be different, but we still know the majority of our issues, and this individual apparently, hopefully, most likely knows how to help us overcome that.
And we're gonna help them prioritize as far as what we want them to work on first, the higher
Yes.
dollar items, I imagine, right?
Yeah. We have some significant things. We talked about this before. We bill Medi-Cal managed care for a clinic visit. They pay their fee schedule amount, $30. We turn around and we bill Medi-Cal for the route payment, and that's like $150, $160. We're unable to bill that route payment right now. So every Medi-Cal HMO visit we had, we haven't been able to bill that, because one of the other things that we found, it's you know, it just hit us in the head kind of thing, is that in Evident, yes, we billed and collected and everything, but there was so much manual process going on and touching the claims and that clearinghouse inside the clearinghouse. And it was the way we were doing things here was like the proverbial square peg round hole when we went with Cerner, trying to shove manual process into Cerner. No, their design is that everything flows through you. It's your build. It's your build. And the way you set things up, and our new clearinghouse was the same way, that they have their edits, and that's why we had so many of those, as you remember from the report, and we still have it, is the clean claim rate. All these edits kept hitting because we did not have our build done. We still were, you know, trying to do old ways. And, you know, take it another step farther is that Cerner doesn't have a great deal of experience with rural California healthcare. And so a lot of this stuff was new to them. And so to compound your sins was that in order to get something in Discern, they said, well, let's just replicate what we did in Evident, because we're getting paid, so do it, and, you know, and it just kind of really created issues, so. And there's no one in on the domain that was a California Critical Access Hospital. They say, well, what about Plumas? You can't cross 3 domains, and, you know, it's been
The Valley of Despair.
not quite, but, so anyway, that's where we're at.
Okay.
That's,
A culmination of a lot of things hitting at once, but we are going to bring a drive by out of this thing.
Does Turner doesn't have any other critical access hospitals
You're the first.
that they contracted?
American was a struggle at first.
Oh. Americare is just, I mean, long-term care is foreign to them. We're very fortunate that they did link us up with Americare, but same thing with Americare, they said, you know,
Yeah.
they didn't have a depth of experience with
Yeah.
Medi-Cal, and they look at it, and it just didn't translate. It's like, God, we can pull the manual up, but when we try and put a claim through denied, wait for 30 to 45 days for it to, you know, it's just, I mean, people are gonna pay whatever, they're gonna get the benefit of what we done with long-term
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
So, big time.
Other people that
So,
have done it.
Mayor's Memorial
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Eastern Plymouth, I understand, I don't know the truth, but I heard that they abandoned Americare just because they didn't want to take on another system implementation.
They're just
Stay
trying to
with it.
they're just trying to survive.
Stay with their old system, but MODOC will use it, and Mayor's Memorial will all benefit from it, and probably Plymouth District once they.
Steve, I have a curiosity question. What percentage of our client population is Medi-Cal?
No, it's like about 15-20%. And then, 15-20%, and then,
Said Medi-Cal.
yeah,
That's on Medi-Cal.
and as far as nursing home
I don't
goes,
know if you- I mean,
100% at any time. So, but yeah, 20%, and then our Medicare is 50-55%, and our commercial is about 20%. We have a great payer mix. But,
So, and all the Medi-Cal now is partnership.
100%.
Single administrator.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions? Rich, do you have anything? Rich, you still with us?
I was mute. No, I have nothing else.
Okay.
If I may, I don't know what else is on the agenda. I was gonna run.
That's why I moved you up.
I really appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Sorry
you,
to
guys. So
wait.
I'm looking forward to next month's report.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you,
So-
Steve.
Sure.
Yeah, revenue's up, and we better we're already getting traction, so. Hopefully lots positive to report. Thanks, Kim.
I got the motion to accept from Rich, but I didn't catch you second. That was for his, October, November.
For the financial reports?
Yeah.
I think
I did.
Shelley did.
I
did.
Yes,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. All right, so we are going back up to number 8, our board committee assignments. So for our standing board committees, we have strategic, these are all in our bylaws, strategic planning committee, finance committee, and bylaws committee. Currently, we have Rich and myself on strategic planning and on finance, and for bylaws, we have Ken and Sherry. So I want to open up for discussion to see if any board members have any desire to switch committees, to get familiar with any other of the topics.
How, I'm interested in the finance. How would that work?
Okay, well, right now, so the finance committee, we just had a meeting this last quarter. We're supposed to meet on that one quarterly, and then we have the treasurer's meeting every month. So I guess that would depend. So Rich,
The finance committee, we could have more than two people on it. It's an open public meeting.
I think technically we're supposed to have two board members on it. Yeah, it is, you're right, it is an open public meeting and anyone of the board members can attend, but I don't think more than two are supposed to
Okay.
participate.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, I was also interested in the repurposing the old hospital and skilled nursing facilities.
yeah,
Ad hoc.
we can talk about that too, yeah, because we had just created that ad hoc committee within this last year. I think it was before you were on the board. So I believe Ken and Sherry, you were on there, so
I will happily give my
happily
stuff.
acquiesce.
Let's just get that community to start getting a little more traction.
Okay.
As we start
Okay.
to.
So are you good with still being on the facility repurpose, Ken? Okay, so then we'll say Ken and Shelley will be on that one. Yes, Ken? We're gonna,
Jim?
I thought you were
Oh,
gonna
no, I-
volunteer for something.
no.
So, yeah, for the finance committee, you can attend and then just can't
Okay.
participate.
Sure.
I think for now, Rich, you and I supposed to do the treasurer's meeting, correct?
Right. I do want to make mention that although you didn't say anything to Steve, that given the situation that we have 100 days of AR and less than 3 months cash on hand, we will have more frequent treasurers meeting than once a month. We need to be on top of this.
Yeah, Rich and I had discussed this, we just hadn't talked to Steve about it. But yeah, so for now, I think, since we're on treasurers, if it makes sense to the rest of the board for Rich and I to still be on the finance committee, as a continuation of that, but you certainly can attend
Okay.
when we do. For bylaws, maybe Ken and Sherry, you guys still want to do bylaws committee?
Sure,
Ken?
Sure.
Okay.
we like the bylaws we worked on a few years back.
I figured that's why I hadn't come
Are
before.
we in
I
a place where we are supposed to need to review this?
I think so.
should take a look at them and just see if there's any changes that you might suggest. That we
Yeah,
make.
some of the laws have changed that we're trying to
Mhm.
comply with.
Yeah. Hopefully nothing major, because we had tried to pare it down so that it wasn't too caught up in that, but
Right.
there may be some changes. And then
Um,
strategic planning, yes, what, Rich?
Just thinking, should we have an ad hoc committee dealing with EMS?
Well, we have an informal one. You know, Sherry and I have been involved. I don't know that we need a formal ad hoc committee for it at this
I wouldn't
stage.
think at this point, but in the going in the future. we might. Depending on what option. Right.
Unless you think we need to form a formal one at this point, that is why I did put others on here as a.
Well, I think it's important that, the two of you figure out whether you wanted to, well, ad hoc doesn't necessarily mean permanent, right?
Right.
But I think it's important that we, act on a regular basis in this area. It's up
Yeah,
to you.
We informally had one, so we might as well formalize it. You and I are on the ad hoc committee for EMS unless anyone has any objection. Okay, and then that just leaves us with strategic planning, which currently Rich and I are on. I don't know if anyone has any. I mean, that pretty much is, we've been doing just working meetings for this committee, basically. It's not really the committee, it's just been strategic planning working sessions because we've been working toward the new build, so. If anyone has any burning desire to hop on that, I think Rich and I can probably continue there. Any objection, Rich?
No,
All right, and I guess the other question is whether there's any other ad hoc committees, any board members see any need for at this point in time. We can always revisit it at any point, but for now. No? Okay. Then I think we have our assignments. We don't need to vote on this, I don't believe.
No, we don't volunteer.
Yeah, we all volunteer, yes. All right, so next item, number 9, quarterly joint conference. So we have 4 joint conference sessions set. I don't know if board members had a chance to review calendars for possible sessions they would like to attend. Usually, well, we always have to have two board members attend each one, so since you're not here right now, but I believe you will be back for these, right?
Back for the chili cook-off.
It's like a conf- February.
High priority things.
I know. So I guess I would first ask you which one you would be available for, or which two you'd be available for.
Probably the safest is June and September.
All right, other board members, what dates might we assign you to?
Well. and for the teaching schedule.
Yeah.
We'll slot you in whatever's left over then.
I can do March, maybe March and, September.
March and September, okay. And
I'm happy to, like, kind of like I did
Fill in wherever.
this last year, fill in when somebody can't make it or wherever there's a vacancy, you can put me in.
okay, so then, Deborah, how about we'll take the dates that we have with the folks that have filled in, and we'll tentatively slot in the rest of us, and then send it out to everyone to confirm.
Okay,
Does
good.
that work?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
We're really gonna try to get.
I
campus
should actually
community
be
functioning
okay
better,
for, I'm sorry.
more medical staff involved. It's been kind of dying, it's been
It
sort of
is
lunch.
kind of, it's been kind of,
Can I ask all of the decisions to attend,
Yeah.
or is it
They're
just
good,
some?
Just need more medical staff.
Medical staff, all the medical staff members are invited to attend.
Correct.
Okay, then I'm gonna really make sure we get people.
Let's
here.
push
I
on
would,
it.
I would, I would
Because it's
ask,
been lunch for two for, last 4 quarters.
Right.
I would ask whether, our allied personnel are invited to attend this. I don't know what it says in the bylaws specifically.
The allied being the radiologists and
Well, I mean, our nurse practitioners, our PAs,
Oh,
our,
sure.
our primary care.
it's medical staff. They're not really medical staff, but
I don't know
it is an
whether-
open community, it's an open conference, so.
Yeah.
Conference committees.
I always felt kind of odd that they weren't invited.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear from them too.
Well, and as we start to develop our primary care and some of our other specialty care, I just want to see more involvement, period, from the providers. Because it's suggestions, it's thought processes, and Lori's very, very creative,
Yes.
so should be clear.
So did you say there was a date you wanted me to put you
Oh,
on?
I was just looking at this and realizing that, in June, I won't be in school, semester's over, so.
I'm putting you down right now.
I'm putting them down right now.
All right, so that moves us to number 10, approval of regular board meeting minutes from January 4th. Board members have a chance to review any questions, comments, or motion to approve.
I move approval.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, Shelley?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ken?
aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, sorry, Brady, we meant to get to this in toward the beginning of the meeting, didn't quite
I'd
happen,
like to-
but.
I would like to introduce Brady Haynes, our Chief Operations Officer. So for those who are online, this is Brady Haynes, everybody. He's joined us. He'll be really, really block and tackle on operations. He's jumped in 2 weeks in. And Brady, you want things to say anything?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, first of all, and I'm excited to be a part of the team. So, part of my, first 30 days will be observing, talking, building relationships, and really listening to all the great things that are here. Because as I'm moving around, I'm seeing all the foundational pieces that are built. And they're coming out like Cerner, like the bill, all of those key things, and the culture of the organization. Being a community member for as long as I have, I can definitely see the shift of all the hard work that was before me. So with that, I'm excited to be here and got a lot of ideas, but I will put those in a report and share those at a later date. Thank you.
That's good, thank you,
Thank
and
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
We're very happy to have you. Okay, so that moves us into our medical staff report. Let's see, better pull it up. All right, so we have reappointment for medical staff, initial allied health, and reappointment for allied health practitioners. Do I have a motion to approve the medical staff report and associated privileges as presented?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sherry. All in favor, Shelley?
Aye.
Ken?
Hey,
Sherry? Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. And our medical staff reports, again, I had tried to move it toward the beginning of our meeting. It's like, before I felt bad, and we're always at the end. I don't know if we even have any of our folks still on with us, probably not. I really appreciate all their reports as always, and I read them
Right.
very
They
thoroughly.
missed the early bird specials.
I know, right? And that's why I wanted to try and bring them more at the beginning of the meeting, because I want to make sure they understand how much we do appreciate their reports and how important they are, yeah. Did any of our board members have any questions about any of the reports?
I continue to be really impressed with the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
The effort that goes into that. I read it and I feel like, oh, we're part of a big
Big family, yeah, yeah,
I think it's so well done.
I agree.
You know, and I did see, I got the Intermountain News newspaper,
Mhm.
and Chelsea did a great little blurb on Lake Elmore. It's really well done.
Seen it, good.
Oh, yeah, it's really well
I
done.
have the paper sitting on my table, but I
Yeah.
haven't looked at it yet. so
I think I
I'll
just
check.
got it
So
yesterday.
there's some very exciting things that are gonna be coming from Chelsea, that she's implementing over the next few months that not ready for prime time, but some very, really cool stuff that's happening using video and different things, so.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, it's nice to see Almanor or Chester actually having, you know,
A face.
being in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, it was just, you know, you'd see, oh, what is it? Bernie, and
yeah.
then, what is that little town?
Cat Creek?
Mill.
Fall River.
Fall River Mills, yes, yes. They were showcased in there, but I was really proud to see, you know, Chelsea's article.
Right. Moving on, let's see, where did the team, all right, so now I think you're down to item 21, Foundation Direct Giving. The board will consider for approval the establishment of a foundation for the purpose of receiving direct giving for 501c3. And I will open this up for discussion. You know, we've noodled on creating our own foundation for a while now, and a lot of hospitals have their own foundation for a lot of reasons for that. So I don't know, Sean, if you want to add anything to that?
Nope, just, board approval, we'd like to move on the 501c3 creation. We're geared up, ready to go for our articles of incorporation with our legal team, so once we get board approval, we're off to the races. Gathered a lot of information from the Emma Foundation. Francie down there gave us such good information, so I think we're ready to launch, and then this will be probably a standing agenda item going forward as it starts to evolve, especially when it comes to board, you know, the board and the bylaws and things like that. It'll be a separate board, but this board there's such a connection that the board member or the president of the board will deliver a report into this board on a regular basis, but let's just get it formed first.
And John, I envision today we are giving approval to move in this direction, and then once we actually have the articles of incorporation and bylaws drafted, it'll come back to us again.
Correct, that's what I understand.
what's your thoughts on timeframes of?
We can be, we won't get our 501c3 designation for a while, but we can start acting with articles of incorporation. I would say probably March or April. I mean, it moves pretty quickly. Then it's gonna be the bylaws, and it's gonna be the board members and assignments of the board members, and just like what you just did, it's gonna be what is your position in the board. It is gonna be a directed board. So really, the only three voting members are going to be myself, our board president, and our CFO. The board, other members will be advisory only. It keeps it directed so that it's very focused on the hospital. So that
What is the process for identifying those individuals?
people apply or it's an application process like anything else.
I think that would be established in the bylaws.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you have specific ideas around how you think that might happen, then maybe let Sean know, because as they're working on the bylaws and getting them
Yeah.
established.
Highly
that could
recommend
be-
it get as super diverse as you can as it relates to board members. The only voting board members, that's what's called directed, are people that focus all of the energy back onto the hospital, back into the facility. So That was a good takeaway from that meeting with Jillian, but,
So would you see some as potential people? Some of the people that we've talked about that we think are potential really good contributors?
yes, definitely. Yeah, I think if there's a variety there. I haven't thought too much about it at this point, so we're sort of in its infancy, but.
And we
I
also
really think
discussed
it should be pretty varied.
asking an auxiliary member to serve on this board as well.
Good connection.
But there will be, from that point on, there'll be important report into the sport.
And then just.
So when you submit your application for the 501c3, do you have to submit bylaws? Or articles?
Articles of incorporation, then you get your state EIN, and then it's filed into not-for-profit, and then that has to go through a process with the IRS. And then you get your notification of 501c3 completion. That can take some time.
I know that, but the articles, I formed 501c3s. I run one. But I had to put a document together to get approval. Do you have such a document? Or are you just gonna do what Enload did?
No, I don't have that document. After today's vote, I'll be discussing with legal counsel who's forming it, a little bit more about the steps going forward, Rich.
Okay, and who's the legal counsel that's gonna do it?
BBK, Noel.
Okay. Do you think it's wise that we talk to another hospitals foundation? I mean, Enload, it's great that you did that, but
Well, I
shouldn't,
think that I'd like to talk to MoDOT. They do a big philanthropic activity up there. They're more our size and things like that. Kevin Kramer up there, the MoDOT, that foundation up there, I think would be a good one to talk to. Maybe we could talk to many of them. Yeah, I do think that it's a good idea.
do they have the whales in the community like we do?
Yeah, they're just wells with straw hats.
Okay.
Yeah, and Alturas, they've got a lot of farmers, a lot of landowners, big agribusiness up there. So yeah, they're up there.
So
Okay.
Rich, back to your ad hoc committee. Do we need a foundation ad hoc committee that you're part of?
It's pretty important that we do this. I know we're gonna do it right, but I mean, make sure we look at everything. I'd be happy to be involved.
Sounds like with your background, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
What other board member would like to be involved? I see Shelley's kind of looking like she might. Okay. Shelley says she'll join you, Rich.
Yeah, the North Bay had a foundation, didn't they?
Yes.
They do.
Yeah. Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so with that, do I have a motion to approve establishing a foundation for the purpose of receiving direct giving for 501c3? Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Shelley? Ken? And I'll vote aye. Thank
Okay,
you, board.
so there's the project.
Okay, next is number 22, our regular board meeting dates. So the November board meeting date falls on Thanksgiving and the December one falls the day after Christmas. So I wanted to discuss modifying those dates so that we don't end up having an issue there later on.
Last time we did December 2nd and then
That's what my suggestion would be, December 5th for the November meeting, if that sounds amenable.
Didn't we see a December 5?
So that would be the following Thursday after Thanksgiving week,
So we do December 5th, you said.
December 5th. Does that sound reasonable to the board? Rich,
Yes.
any- Okay, and then for the December meeting, second is like right after New Year's. Does the board want to move it to the following week on the 9th? Or is that too far into the month?
In January.
Yeah, for the December meeting.
I think the 9th is fine.
Yeah.
All right. Then we will say it's January 9th unless no one objects, or anyone objects, I should say.
Yep.
Okay, I don't think there's any other conflicts that I noted in our schedule. So our agenda items for the next board meeting, I know we came up with a few along the way. We'll make sure we capture those, but things that we had originally made sure were on here, so we don't lose track of. New hospital build, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, updated cash flow analysis. We went through it today, but we'll have an updated one for next month. Finance investment policy, grant prospecting agreement. And Brian, I had added this one on here. Cerner analysis of system edits delivered, undelivered as part of initial build, because we kind of talked about this at our last meeting. Now, is that how I should have captured this? Okay, just want to make sure I didn't misinterpret that. All right, are there any other items that other board members want to make sure we?
Just to call your attention to this right here, December 5 and December 5.
Oh, as far as the board meeting and well, the joint conference occurs from 12:30 or 12. I forget what time the joint conference is.
It's usually 12:30.
It's 11:30 to 1.
11:30 to 1. So we should be okay there, I think. It's just the same day.
You can have lunch and then drive right into
Yeah.
the.
But thank you.
board
for
meeting.
that. Yeah.
Did you wanna add that piece that we talked about for the contracting positions? You wanna add that to the next board agenda?
Yes, yes.
Oh, it's
we-
okay.
I had already put it on the draft, but yes, we can
Did
definitely
we also
capture that
want to
now.
discuss the West Elmwood, West Shirley?
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
So I noticed, last year we had a chili cook-off in the summertime. I thought we were repeating this summer and it somehow didn't happen. Just wondering if,
It's happening next month.
oh, it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
next month.
Yeah, last year happened in the winter also.
And yes, we have a team.
We what?
And yes, Seneca has a team this year.
Okay, okay. good.
All right.
Where's it gonna be?
At the park.
At the park?
I don't remember the date, but it's on the chamber.
Should be on
calendar.
their chamber site.
I thought we were gonna do it annually at Plymouth Pines.
Oh, the rib cook-off?
Oh, the rib cook-off.
The rib cook.
That's
what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't, that was the Elmore Foundation wrote that. And I have to talk to Todd. I think Todd's exhausted.
That's right.
To
across the
be
street from me.
determined then.
Yeah, I think Todd was pretty beat up the last couple times. He's like, I don't know if I can do this again.
All right, guys, so let's just wrap up our next regular board meeting, February 29th, 3 p.m. here. And with that, our meeting adjourned.
You,
Thank you, good meeting.
take care.
Or we went through very long, yes, ma'am.
I do have some files from medical
Okay,
appointments.
yes, okay.
Do you want to sign today or were you planning?
I can, what would be the trio?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it was better for you.
She's